So in Latin American Industrial Revolution takes a little bit of a different course. I mean, it's a turbulent time for former Spanish and Portuguese colonies in the Americas. They descended into a series of international wars and regional rebellions. Simon Bolivar's dream of South American unity ultimately fails, and domestic politics are usually characterized by disputes between conservative and progressive forces during this time period. Latin America also comes to be dominated by powerful military leaders known as caudillos. They generally rise up through the chaos, and because they can consolidate power, generally rule in an authoritarian manner. So Latin American society was dominated mostly by white Creole males, and the vast majority of mixed-race Indian and African peoples throughout the colonies, whether mestizos in Mexico or mulattoes in the Caribbean, are often impoverished and repressed, and the remaining Indian groups generally are even lower on the totem pole of the social order. This does lead to revolts. One such revolt is the caste war of the Yucatan, where an oppressed indigenous population, in this case the Mayans, were trying to get rid of European and mixed race settlers altogether to control their own region. And although the region of Latin America really doesn't industrialize during the 19th century, industrialization still has a huge impact. Changes to global transportation through the steamship and railroad, as well as telegrams, do bring Latin America into a closer economic relationship with the industrializing states. Also, they participate widely in the worldwide market, producing goods for export. Latin American countries exported metals such as silver from Mexico, tin from Bolivia, and copper from Chile to the north. Other nations produce food crops such as Argentine beef, Brazilian coffee, and bananas from Guatemala and other Central American states. The Amazon basin produces rubber, which is vital to industrialization, and Peru sends bird guano, which is used as fertilizer to industrialized nations as well. They also imported industrial goods from the United States and Europe for consumer products, but one of the biggest impacts of industrialization in Latin America is that foreign capital investments go to stimulate the growth in railways and mines, but it also leads to a large amount of foreign control of key sectors of the economy, which reduces political sovereignty in those nations. So as a result of this, Latin American elites often look to Europe and to a lesser degree the Americas to emulate their societies. You do have rapid urbanization in the region and the creation of new modern cities like Buenos Aires, and also you have a solicitation of European immigrants. These Latin American elites want to make their population more white. The Creoles specifically try to get more immigrants from Europe with a variety of promises to poor Italians. There's Germans that immigrate there, and as well as other groups. Few see economic benefits from the exports because the money is kept amongst a very few elite at the top. And you do have, as a result, as you do in other countries, growth of unions and strikes, which usually result in pretty brutal repression by governments and ownership in those industries. Another major difference in Latin America is you don't see the elevation of the rural population as you do in other industrial societies. The vast majority of the rural population remains very poor and in the countryside. Now, one of the major impacts of the Industrial Revolution was the Mexican Revolution, and it saw the death of over 1 million people, or 10% of the Mexican population. And really, the Mexican Revolution was not one revolution, but a series of violent conflicts amongst different political factions and leaders. most radical groups did not. The most radical groups did not seize power. However, the 1917 Constitution was a very progressive change for Mexico. Outside of Mexico, however, the revolution had very little impact. Much of Latin America's economic development during this period becomes dependent upon exporting raw materials to Europe and the United States, and importing manufactured goods and capital from Europe and the United States. And this leads key sectors of the economy being controlled by foreign investors, such as United Fruit in Central America. Some consider this just a new form of colonialism, economic imperialism, if you will. This economic investment does lead to intervention specifically from the United States, which during this time is going to see the Roosevelt corollary to the Monroe Doctrine, and the United States becoming much more involved in Latin American affairs. The United States intervenes with the military in Cuba, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Nicaragua, and even Mexico during this time. And it also builds and controls the Panama Canal, and took control after Puerto Rico, or took control of Puerto Rico after the Spanish-American War. So what we see during this time in Latin America is, while there is some industrial development, Latin America's main interaction with the Industrial Revolution is through the export of commodities and the importation of finished products and consumer goods, and ultimately the domination of foreign capital and investment in the Mexican economy. So that'll wrap us up on our discussion of the Industrial Revolution. We'll continue our next unit with our next chapter, continue our discussion of the changing societies during this period. So we'll talk to you later. Bye.